So this formula is actually just D equals A sine omega t, or with cosine. Amplitude is absolute value of A, and the period is, it's 2 pi over this omega. So this is actually easier than maybe it sounds. Example 6 says, write the equation for the simple harmonic motion with displacement t equals 0, amplitude 4 centimeters, and period 2 seconds. Well, if you have displacement, seniors, if you're in physics, you've probably talked about this, but let me just go over the difference between displacement and total distance. So say this is I'm on this block, and I walk forward 3 blocks, and I walk back 2. I've actually walked 5 blocks, right? I went up 3 and back 2. That's called total distance. But displacement is from my starting point, where did I end up? I'm only 1 block away. So displacement that's what displacement means. So if you're a junior, this will help you conceptually in physics next year. All right, so if displacement is at t equals 0, and you're trying to decide between, and usually we use sine over cosine, but because the displacement is 0 and you're not up or down there, we're going to use the sine curve, okay? So we'll use D equals A sine omega t. Now the amplitude is A, so we know A is 4. Now something you need to remember, and I've mentioned it several times before, is that if the period is 2 pi over omega, and the period is 2 seconds, we can actually solve this little proportion. You can multiply by the w and get 2w equals 2 pi. The 2's will cancel, so the omega is equal to pi. So it's going to be pi t. So, I mean, that's all you were asked to do was write the equation. Something I want to mention, though, just so that we have it, is frequency is 1 over the period length. Okay, we'll need that in the next problem. All right, example 7 says, given the equation for simple harmonic motion, d equals 6 cosine 3 pi over 4t, find the maximum displacement. Okay, now think about this a minute. Don't let the equation, it looks a little bit confusing when in fact, if you just try to look past that, if you cover up the 6, and I have the cosine of some angle, what's the range for cosine? What are the values that are spit out of cosine?
0 to 2. 0 to pi.
Not 0 to pi, you're thinking inverse.
Oh.
Just cosine. Negative 1 to 1, right? Yeah, you guys are doing inverse. No, so we're just out of the cosine function. It spits out negative 1 to 1. And so if I have 6 times that, it's spitting out negative 6 to 6. So what's the furthest place it gets is 6 units away from its starting spot. So the displacement is really your amplitude, right? In B, it says what's the frequency? Well, frequency is equal to the reciprocal of the period. Well, the period is 2 pi over omega, or omega over 2 pi. Well, what's omega here? Yeah, okay, thank you. Like, it's not that hard, guys. 3 pi over 4 over 2 pi. So that's 3 pi over 4 times 1 over 2 pi. So the pi's cancel, so the frequency is 3/8. So remember that. Frequency is reciprocal of the period, and we know how to find period length. All right, letter C says find the value of D when T is 4. So you plug in that T is 4. The 4's cancel. And remember, we're trying to get away from like redoing the entire unit circle all the time. But the cosine of 3 pi, well, one time around is 2 pi. So 3 pi is right over here. So what's the cosine of 3 pi? -1. So this is -6. So that means at time is 4, I'm 6 away. So if I were going on a straight line, that means I'm 6 units back from my starting point, okay? Whether that's down or left. All right, then letter D says find the least positive value of T for which D is 0. And again, initially it might look kind of scary what we're doing, but then you're just going to keep taking a foot forward, and see what to do. Well, I could start by dividing both sides by 6. And then at this point, you don't know how to continue. But what I can do is I could use some substitution. What if I let theta be the 3 pi over 4t? Okay, let's do, because this is too difficult of a problem. We don't know how to do it the way that it's written. So using a simpler problem is a wonderful strategy to use. So watch what I can do. I can make this cosine theta equal 0, and I know how to do that one, right? I can think about my unit circle, and from 0 to 2 pi, what values give me cosine of that angle equals 0? I heard it. Pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. Oh, well, guess what? If we know what theta is, let's start with the first one, pi over 2, and set it equal to the 3 pi over 4, we can figure out what t is, can't we? Very, very doable. So then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, 4 over 3 pi. The pi's cancel, and 2 goes into 4 twice. Now let me ask you this. It asked for the least positive. If I put 3 pi over 2, is that going to be larger or smaller? Be larger, right? You're going to put a bigger number in, you'll get a bigger output. So t equals 2/3 is your answer. Isn't that funny? Yeah.